everyone. I'm your host, Andre Darmanin, and this is the Global Conversations webcast, where we're connecting with inspiring individuals across the globe, connecting leaders, and advocating for EDI on the front line. Today is going to be yet a fun, exciting, and inspirational episode. It's my immense pleasure to welcome my esteemed guest, Vivian Acquah, an exceptional certified consultant and coach, a driving force in the domain of EDI, and we're going to intersect this all with culture and food. Vivien is the visionary behind Amplify DEI, a platform that seeks to elevate the voices for those often underrepresented in the workplace. In striving to bridge the gap, she's helping businesses gain a deeper and more comprehensive understanding of EDI. She's an in-demand workplace wellness advocate. She's at the helm of Viva La Vive, a startup geared towards inspiring corporations to foster a more inclusive, safe, and healthy work atmosphere. Finally, she's the host of not only one, but two podcasts. She's a busy woman, trust me. So
almost three.
Almost three. Well, we're gonna have to talk about that too. So, so the two that I'm referring to are Let's Humanize the Workplace and Cooking Back to Our Roots. Mm-hmm. I'm thrilled, so thrilled to have such an influential powerhouse to share her insights, knowledge, and experiences with us today. As we delve into the core of nurturing work environments that appreciate diversity, expect a conversation that not only enlightens and inspires, but also dares to challenge the status quo. So let's begin. Vivien, thank you so much for being my guest today. And, it's an honor to have you today, seeing what you've done in the world of EDI, and of course, as we get into the whole culture and food aspect, how we're going to intersect those. But, Vivien, so can you first share a bit about yourself and your journey towards becoming that powerhouse in the EDI world?
Yeah, first of all, Andre, I do have to say that I want to acknowledge you for inviting me for your podcast and also for us having this conversation, right? We already had some pre-fun now and also a few weeks ago, but I really enjoy that connection that we have, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So my story, do you want the extended version or the summary version? Which version do you want?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. I mean, this is, whatever you want. Go ahead.
Okay. Vivian Acquah, born and raised in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I started my career in my early 20s as a financial consultant, and I had the privilege as a consultant to see different companies in a short amount of time. I eventually crossed the bridge to become a bridge builder between finance and IT, and then became an IT consultant. The reason why I'm sharing this is because it's valuable as a consultant to learn the different cultures, but also you have to adopt in a crock pot, sort of say, to adopt yourself in that new culture that you're working for, and you don't have the longevity or the luxury to create connections in a slower pace. You have to connect faster with people so that they get to know you, they get to like you, and they get to trust you. Now, let's sort of say that some cultures within the companies were acceptive and were very warm, but other cultures were not acceptive and very warm towards me as a black woman, and I faced different isms along my career. Whereas it was really impactful, but the one that really was the tipping point for me walking away from corporate and now becoming a DEI consultant was the fact that I announced my pregnancy at a very early stage when I was 5 weeks pregnant. At the time, I was working for a small IT company where I was one of the few women. And by disclosing my pregnancy, I was hoping for empathy. I was hoping for support, but instead I got bullied. So that bullying took a toll on me. It took a toll on my mental well-being, but also caused a lot of other symptoms like hypertension. And it wasn't until my midwife warned me, like, what are you doing? Because you're risking the life of your child if you stay in a place that doesn't love you. So that was for me my aha moment, but also my wake-up call to at least take an early maternity leave. And the moment that my son was born, it took me a while, but the moment that I looked into his eyes and say, what am I doing here? I have taken care of my child. I have carried him along the way, and now they expect me to go back to a toxic workplace that doesn't love me back. And also, when my child is at an age where he's facing different isms, I hope not, but when he's facing challenges in the workplace, what would I say to him? And why am I not activating that advice now? So I walked away and became an employee sustainability consultant at the time, where I found out more about diversity, equity, and inclusion. At the time, it was more diversity and inclusion, but I knew that paying attention to the well-being of the employees without having those pillars of diversity, equity, and inclusion included was a waste of time. And I wanted to invest to create virtual soils now, so that the seeds that are related to EDI are getting a better landing instead of landing on bricks.
That was a fascinating story of how you I don't know if you want to call it stumbled or became someone who was part of this part of this conversation. Usually in our work, in our field, there's always a personal story to tell.
Yeah.
And these are things that a lot of people don't understand. We take pride in what we do and how we have connection to people. And the connection you and I have had over the last month or so, especially when it comes to this work, it's it was amazing. And now listening to this story and getting to know who you are really, and for the audience themselves listening to this story, it's these are common stories that we hear, whether it's mental health, the effects of bullying, especially on marginalized and racialized communities within the workplace, and all of that. And it's sad that we have to endure this, if you will. Yeah. And now it's time that you're bringing that to the forefront and making sure that things don't happen to you, not only for your son, but also for others who are in the workplace right now, and who either have experienced the similar situations that you have, or who don't want to be part of that. So those are things that are really something that we want to address.
I strongly believe that what I've endured, right? Some people say that the challenges that come your way, there is a reason why you're being challenged, right? So at the moment, just to disclose, I broke my ankle in May, which I'm still recovering, which is another challenge that I'm learning from. But the challenges sometimes that we get, there are valuable lessons from that to be learned. So at the time, yes, I didn't like the challenge, but then again, there's a reason why I'm still here on this earth. There's a reason why my son became my Yoda. There's a reason why I am sharing his story and also my story, to warn and talk to other peoples about the impact of exclusion. They may seem like it's minor, but if you have dealt with microaggression for so many years and so many times, the next little thing that somebody encounters, it might be a huge thing.
No, that is so true. That is so true. And let's dive a little deeper and get a little personal a bit. I know you've shared your story, you shared your experiences, but what is something that people might be surprised to know about you?
I think two things. One thing is that I am neurodiverse, which I'm doing a whole coming out tour at the moment right now of discovering what it means to be neurodiverse, but also for me to have a seat at the table and to understand. Now I understand why I do a lot of things. You were talking about you're here, you're there, you're that and this, but this is Vivien. I am 10 people in one. And when I was in the workplace, I was only hired for one part of Vivien, whereas the 9 things of me were deactivated, and I felt like I'm not being used to my full potential. Why are you not allowing me to do this, or why am I not doing that? And it caused a conflict. Now that I'm working for myself, now that I have my own company, I'm able to bring in the little things about me. So I'm a nerd. Yoda is a little Yoda is sitting behind me, but also the robot behind me. I love creating things. I created my own coaching card deck. I love setting things up in IT. I crafted a summit in 2020 and 2021, not only including myself, but also inviting the different individuals that I don't see on other panels or other summits. I wanted to make sure that besides the Let's Humanize the Workplace panels, I wanted to make sure to include them, because I don't know what they have faced with the barriers and the challenges that they had in the workplace. I want to be sure that we are sharing different narratives, different stories, and that's me.
And so, now knowing all this, I want to get into something that we've talked about in the past, and especially, first you talked about your one podcast, Let's Humanize the Workplace.
Yeah.
But right now,
Yeah.
since you're, you like to be in all different spaces, and and I get that, especially as a consultant.
Yeah.
The one podcast that I keep seeing in my feed right now is Cooking Back to Our Roots. And
Yeah.
so, I want you to, I guess, give us a little taste, pardon the pun, of
Yeah.
that podcast, and
Yeah.
and then let's talk about how do you personally connect food, flavors, and culture into the broader view of equity, diversity, inclusion.
Yeah, so Let's Humanize the Workplace is number one. Second is Global Inclusion in Practice. That's a podcast that I have with my partner, Marjolein Vlug. And then Cooking Back to Our Roots, it's about sharing a narrative that is not being shared in the Netherlands. So it starts with the Dutch individuals in the Netherlands from the African diaspora that are not being seen in the media, not being heard of, or don't have let's say I don't hear them on the different platforms that I listen to, right? And this year, the Dutch King, Willem-Alexander, made an apology regarding the Dutch involvement of colonial history. He also asked for forgiveness. Based upon that, there were some grants given. I luckily won that grant, with an amazing lady who made the effort to challenge me, but also to help me and support me to get this grant. So I want to make sure that this platform, yes, I'm the front woman, it's my idea, but I also want to make sure it takes a village to raise a child, and this was definitely work done by the village. The conversations that we are having is talking to different diaspora, talking to people within the African diaspora. So the Dutch had a lot of involvement in Suriname. They had a lot of involvement in the former Dutch Antilles. So they apologized to those regions, those countries. But what I don't hear is the apology for West Africa, the apology for South Africa, because that's where the people come from, right? We also, I'm Ghanaian, I know where I'm from, but in a way, I feel like a family member was taken away from me, whereas a piece of my history, the part of my narrative has been edited because of the Dutch colonial slave trade. And I want to make sure that we are sharing stories not only based upon what's happening now, but also go back to the impact the colonial slavery history is still having on us, and how we can evolve from that, how we can empower ourselves by sharing the different stories about our challenges, how we have risen above them, and also share food for the soul. And I know that food connects, right? Wherever you go, whether it's Trinidad, whether it's Curacao, whether it's Suriname, whether it's where else, there is a connection that we have with food. If you decipher the food, so let's look at High on the Hog, right? There was this Netflix show, Netflix series that was done where they went back to Africa, but also Jessica B. Harris, who is the original book writer of High on the Hog, she also did a lot of research about where is the American food plate where is it coming from? It has its origin. Even though people were kidnapped, people were lured out of their country, doesn't mean that everything that they learned and they ate was gone, was lost. There are so many things that connects us, and food is an easy way. Who doesn't love food? Food is my way of creating a connection, but also to make the topics of diversity, equity, and inclusion, to make it more digestible. Sometimes things need to marinate, especially within the Caribbean kitchen and also the African kitchen. It takes sometimes a half a day to create a main dish for the whole family, right? So that's how I talk about certain topics. I give people digestible items so that they don't end up in a food coma, but I give them a menu they can choose from, and then from there on they can expand that menu when they have excelled to a different level.
Yeah. And, as I'm listening to this, thinking back to my mom, and, especially now that we just had our Thanksgiving in Canada, and then of course Christmas, I mean, I can't say that food coma didn't happen during those times, but her being in the kitchen and seeing, and there's that whole connection to family, right? It's not only your own family, but you're cooking to others, and that's what's inspiring, right? And that's something that's brought from African traditions into Caribbean traditions. For myself, Trinidad; for you, Ghana, and for others in Curacao and Suriname and all that. So, these are things that are really, I wish people would understand this, especially in the EDI space.
It's part of our identity.
Exactly, right?
It's
exactly.
part of our identity. So mess with our food, you're messing with our identity.
Yeah.
And if you're not acknowledging our food, you're taking away part of my identity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it goes back even to the earlier conversation about your identity is, people put you in a box. You're not able to flourish in other ways, right? That's the same thing with food and culture, right? If you're put into a certain box, your levels of stress go up that much more, right? I felt it, you felt it, I'm sure so many others have felt it. Yeah. And so, as we go into this whole idea of culture, how do it's, and I think we've kind of touched on it, but I think, we want to expand on it a little bit, but can you express how the culture and its nuances informs your work in the EDI space?
Yeah, and what specifically, because I can see myself getting lost in the Atlantic Ocean of culture. So is there a specific part of culture that you want to address?
We could talk about it from organizational culture. We could talk about it from your culture. Especially when we're coming from the from this. So the
thing that I want to address is cultural intelligence, right? When a lot of companies here in the Netherlands are international companies, or they hire people from different regions, from different cultures, and people assume that people will just adapt into the given culture that is there. That means they are asking me to strip away my headscarf, to strip away my hair, to strip away the types of things that I like to eat, to wear, to do. That's not how I'm adding value to your company. I'm adding value, a talent is adding value to a company with the knowledge that they have, with the experiences that they have. And if you're stripping that away from them, then what is left of them? Because then you're asking people to become a robot. And what I want to do with the work that I'm doing is, let's acknowledge the culture, our culture, but also let's have a conversation about what is your culture, what can I learn from that? And the outreach that I'm doing also with the cooking program is, I'm not looking at, okay, they are from Suriname, so I'm not talking to them. I know that in the past, I wouldn't say I was brought up to do that, but I wasn't encouraged to connect with different cultures, right? And I want to make sure that even though they are from a different country or different, ethnic background, I see them as my black sister, my black brother. And sometimes there are so many similarities in the way that we are brought up, but we don't acknowledge the conversation because we skip the conversation, and then it goes into but I thought you were like this, or this is what I thought of Suriname people, or this is what I thought of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, because that's what the media has been sharing, right? So I don't know what I don't know. And the best way to go about it is to ask open questions. And I love talking.
Yeah, and I love that too about you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
it's so interesting that the common theme, whether it's intentional or unintentional, of a lot of my guests to this point has been about cultural intelligence.
Yeah.
And what I find a lot of times, especially even within the EDI space, is that not a lot of people are aware of this, especially we are in a globalized world,
Yeah.
right? And we have different cultures, multiple cultures that are part of our organizations or part of our worlds, if you will. And I mean, food is one aspect of it that brings people together, but also understanding the mannerisms, the way people speak, all of that. And
The way they look, the
the
way
way they
they
look.
they don't interact, right? With the
Yeah.
way they sometimes in some cultures it's not polite to say no.
Yeah.
Whereas you take it as, oh, they want to go for it, but they don't want to because they
Yeah.
want to be polite.
Yeah. And these are things that we need to start understanding in this
Yeah.
globalized world, is that we've been learning from the British culture about being classy and all that, but you know what?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to be yourself, right? And
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like we need to understand how how other cultures interact with each other, and embrace that. And the one
Yeah.
thing, and as I move on to something else, is we talk so much about cultural fit, and
Yeah.
especially with culture, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, if you're trying to fit, who are you trying to fit for? And that's the whole thing.
Innovation doesn't come from culture fit. Innovation comes
Exactly.
from culture add, and also innovation comes from when you're adding something to the culture. I can place it simple, right? I have this acronym of way of telling diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I'll explain it. When you are creating the best, tastiest carrot cake, right? That's the experience that you want to leave behind for your clients and your employees. So diversity is all the different ingredients that are on the kitchen table. But just putting all those things on the kitchen table doesn't mean that you get the best ever scrumptious carrot cake. You go for equity. Equity is all the different tools that is needed to create that carrot cake. But then again, you don't have the finished product yet, because now you have batter. And to excel from batter to the best ever tastiest carrot cake, you have to put it in an oven. And the oven temperature is something that you decide together with your team members to get the ideal oven temperature to bake that carrot cake. Because if you just put people on the table and think that they are going to become the best carrot cake without putting equity and inclusion in place, then that's the mess that you see right now. That's where you see the DEI challenges going wrong.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Just I've never heard it, but you know what? This is why we need. This
You
is
have
why
to
we
bet
need
me.
to. It's right, exactly, and that's the thing. We need to have these. You know what? And I'm
Yeah.
certainly hoping that you use that analogy in your
Oh,
in your
definitely.
talks,
People know
right?
my clients know me about me seducing them with a carrot cake.
And I
Sometimes I
just had
have the
carrot cake
carrot
the
cake
other day.
present. Yeah.
So there you go. See, another reason why we've matched up together in this conversation. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
So so let's shift a little bit. Now we've gone from
Mhm.
food, and we've
Mhm.
kind of delved into the whole culture thing. But you're a coach. You're a wellness
Yeah.
coach. You're
Mhm.
a certified coach. So, but the thing is, a lot of EDI professionals are not aware that coaching is an option for them.
Mhm.
So
It
so
should
let's
be
start off.
mandatory. It should.
Exactly.
First of all, coaching should be mandatory, especially with the work that we are doing. We are almost a stewardess in the airplanes, right? We sometimes forget that we need to put on the oxygen mask first for ourselves instead of taking care of other people. And also know that being a DEI professional, you have like 10 to 15 roles within you. And one of those roles that should not be, one of the things that should not be those roles is you are not Harry Potter, nor are you Annalise, the one from How to Get Away with Murder, or nor that you are from, I'm forgetting her name, the woman, the main lead from Scandal. You're not the fixer, Olivia Pope. You're not the fixer. You are other things. You are a mediator, you are a counselor, you are the expert, you are the support, you are so much more. But we forget to refuel ourselves. And also, oftentimes, being the DEI professional within a company, you are the only one. And when people challenge your way of thinking, your way of doing, it helps to have a support system, an ambassador, your cheerleader, someone who has connections with other professionals where this person can validate what you're thinking. Is it wrong, or should it be a little bit different, or think about the other side of the story?
Definitely.
Having a coach should be mandatory for DEI professionals.
Yeah, and so I guess then, to follow up with that, why do you think EDI professionals resist that? Is it because they feel that they can do it all and they don't need it, or is it just one of those, they keep things in and they think that, oh, you know what, I can, this is something I may not need?
I wouldn't say resist that, because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know that you might need a coach, or a coach is helpful for you, and you don't know the benefits, then you will never ask for support. And also, having a coach that understands you, understands your experience, your lived experience, understand your experience as a marginalized person, right? I would love to coach somebody who is part of the transgender community. However, I would rather refer them to somebody who understands them better. Not that I'm saying I cannot. I'm just saying that it helps to connect with a person who has a different lived experience, and also it helps to have a similar lived experience as well.
Definitely. And so I want to know the secrets and the tools of the trade here. So
You want to know the ingredients?
I want to know the ingredients, basically. So, I know there's some
We are
secret
not sharing
ingredients.
ingredients here.
Hey, I'm not asking for the carrot cake ingredients. I'm just waiting for that taste to happen when I'm in the Netherlands. But so give how do you tailor your coaching techniques to the unique needs of EDI professionals? Like, give me an example of something that you would do.
Yeah. So one part of the coaching journey is self-care. Adding a toolbox where the individual is taking care of their own, and whatever it is, right? It's up to them to choose whatever gives them energy, but also whatever helps them unwind from being overwhelmed. And I'll share with I'm not sharing with clients. One thing that I really love when I had a busy day or a challenging day, I have even been along this journey, somebody even told me that I have polarized views, where I'm combating those views. But for me to use that, to have an outlet, kickboxing is my ideal outlet. It's mindful. I am beating away energy. And also I am exercising along the time. So I'm having a 3-in-1 thing. The other thing that I would like to say is having conversation, or creating communities where people can have a conversation where they are not the only one, is so valuable, because or else the thought of being the only one will overconsume you.
Right. And self-care is very important in this work that we do. And and it's not only just us as equity practitioners, but it's also useful for other people in organizations who have those experiences. I mean, we talked about it, at the outset. So,
Yeah.
I want to close off with something a little fun here too. So, we talk about culture, we talk about food, we talk about your coaching. Wrapping that all up, and your kickboxing as your outlet.
Yeah.
So when you're kickboxing,
Yeah.
or even just in general in the kitchen, music often is that other connector to all this, right?
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
so I guess if you want to talk about it from your kickboxing experience or for when you're in the kitchen, which songs inspire you during those events, if you will, or instances, and
I have
and
two.
why? Yeah.
And two are from one person. First of all, Beyonce. I want to give her props and her credit for creating that, reigniting the love that I have for her, but also from a business-wise perspective, she's such an inspiration. And the song that really picks me up is Bigger. You're part of something way bigger, bigger than you, bigger than me, bigger than us that it claim us to see. And that song, it really picked me up when I was dealing with some challenging conversations where I almost said, like, I'm gonna walk away because this is not worth it. But then I turn around and look into my son and listen to that song. I'm part of something way bigger. The other song is My Power. Standing into, definitely with Cooking Back, I want to reclaim our power. The power of the African diaspora, the power of being a person of color, the power of being me. In my early days, in my early career, until, let's say, until the time that I started my company, I was listening too much to other people that it fed into the way I thought about myself. I had to unlearn that. I had to stand in my power. And also what helps is, it's not a song, but what helps is I literally had the opportunity to walk in somebody else's shoes by using virtual reality. And that for me was an eye opener. So many people cannot consume or cannot understand microaggression or how it feels when good intention goes bad, that it has this weird aftertaste. You understand that, but do so many other people understand that? And by using this as a tool, as a lens of, I'm not gonna share, my trauma story. I mean, I'm okay with sharing my story, but so many other people are not okay with sharing their story because it re-traumatizes them. But using virtual reality as a safe way for other people to walk them out in their shoes and understand, ooh, okay, I confronted my own bias, and I think I can do something about that to create that awareness, but also to be part of the inclusion journey.
And this is such an inspirational journey that you've taken me on today, listening to your stories, and the unique nature of the intersection of food, culture, coaching, and EDI, and how they all relate one way or another.
You're getting the 12-course meal in
Ah.
a speedway.
And I haven't eaten, and as we're, I haven't had my breakfast yet, so you're making me hungry. But anyway,
The effect that I have on people, and I always start with a disclaimer: I'm not responsible for that.
Oh my gosh. So with that, I wanna close our episode today. Vivien, I'm blessed and honored to have you as a friend, to get to know you, and have our audience get to know who you are. It is such an amazing story that you were able to tell, and you're continuing with your journey, and your world, if you will. So thank you for this. I really appreciate it. So and in our closing, who are fired up from our conversation and are eager to connect with you, Tell us how people how they can reach you.
The best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn and also say hi, right? I may seem like, the online Beyonce, which I'm not. I'm very approachable. I'm actually an ambivert. Majority of the time, I'm an introvert, but you can reach out to me and say hi and maybe share what did you walk away from this conversation. I always want to leave something behind that is food for thought, that has a landing, as in marinating, and eventually I want some action. We need to create magical recipes that are adding towards creating inclusion, amplifying inclusion.
Definitely, definitely. So with that, share your comments on our episode. Once this link is up and we're ready to go, it'll be online. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Global Conversations webcast. You can find this and other episodes on YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And remember, we grow and inspire by sharing stories and insights. So as I mentioned, leave us a comment, share this episode with your folks in your network, and don't forget to give us a rating. Let's stay tuned for enlightening conversations ahead. Until next time, I'm Andre Darmanin, bidding you a good day, and thanks once again, Vivien.
Thank you, Andre.